Hello, Midnight Readers. Welcome back. Today we are jumping into Their Legend, Our Destiny. It is from the Butterflies of the Heart series, from Book 2, Supernatural Romances. Ready? Let's go. Chapter 1. Nothing could have prepared me for what was to come, nor could anyone or anything have made me believe in such things, had I not come to experience them firsthand. The immaculately kept grounds stretched farther than the eye could see. Majestic trees, romantic pathways, and winding trails that whispered adventure were scattered across the property. In addition to the grand Vanderbilt estate, there were 4 smaller homes nestled throughout the grounds. The Vanderbilt estate itself dripped with elegance, from its architecture to its castle-esque wooden doors. You could just tell that it came from old money. The current owners were the 5th-generation Vanderbilts to reside on the land. It just so happened that the house closest to the main estate was available for rent, at an uncharacteristically low price point. Asher, my cousin, had always been like a big brother to me, so embarking on this house hunt with him felt like the right move, especially given the current situation. After my mom's car accident a little over 6 months ago, it became apparent that we were going to need more money relatively quickly to cover the medical expenses that the insurance wouldn't. Having no further options, I reluctantly put the house up for sale. Thankfully, my mom had put it in my name on my 18th birthday. It had been late as my mom headed home from work on that rainy night. I was on the phone with her, telling her about how my last college final had gone earlier that day. She was going on about how proud she was that I had completed my associate's degree and how excited she was for me to transfer to the university to continue my studies in the fall. It was then that I heard the high-pitched screeching of tires, right before the awful sound of shattering glass erupted. There was a loud boom, and the line went dead. My chest tightened, and in that moment, I feared the worst. Shortly after, I received a call from the hospital. They explained that my mom was in surgery, and they would know more after. I immediately called Asher, who had lived with us up until a year ago. His parents had died when he was 10, also in a car accident. My mom had raised him as if he were her own son. We were all very close. "Asher, did you hear me?" It was another minute before he finally responded. "Yeah, sorry, I'm on my way to pick you up," he replied, sounding choked up. It wasn't more than 15 minutes before he arrived. I looked up at him through teary eyes. Immediately, noticing that his eyes were red, and he appeared to be holding back tears as well. He hugged me so tightly that I could barely breathe, but I didn't care. I needed that hug. There was a police officer waiting when we arrived at the hospital. He gave us the police report number and informed us that the other driver would be taken into custody once he was stable enough. We learned that the guy had been drunk and ran a red light. When the police officer let it slip that the drunk had lost a leg in the accident, I couldn't help but think, serves him right. What the officer said next caught us both off guard. "Anyway, sorry about your mom. Hope she wakes up and pulls through okay." My heart sank, and I couldn't stop the tears from flowing. Asher wrapped his arms around me, whispering, "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay," over and over, as we waited for the doctor to come out and talk to us. Almost an hour had gone by when the doctor appeared. My breath caught when I saw the look on the doctor's face. "Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. It doesn't look good. She made it through the surgery, but she's currently on life support. At this point, there's no guarantee that her body will be able to start functioning on its own again. And even if it does, the chances of a full recovery are very slim. All we can do now is wait." As the days rolled into weeks and eventually into months, the bills began piling up. The insurance covered a portion of the expenses. However, the rest fell on us. Asher had graduated with his master's degree when I had graduated with my associates. He now had a pretty decent job. I ended up not continuing to university, but rather got a job working from home, which provided me with the flexibility to stop by the hospital during visiting hours, or whenever needed. Even with our combined income, we were drowning in bills. It was apparent that something needed to be done. We were informed that the insurance would help cover the life support and medical for up to 6 months, as long as we were making payments. There was no way we were going to have them pull her off life support before the 6 months were up. We didn't care if the chances of her waking up were slim. There was at least still a chance. That's when Asher came up with a plan for us to sell the house and find a place to rent together. The money from the sale of the house would cover the mounting bills. It was around the same time that Asher's best friend, Logan, who happened to be a good friend of mine as well, received a notification that his landlord was selling the house that he had been renting for the last 4 years. It came as a surprise, causing him to scramble to find a place quickly. Asher and Logan had been staying most nights at my place since the accident, which, in random late-night conversation, led to the decision that the 3 of us should just get a place together. So, here we were, a month into the house hunt, when Asher finally found a suitable listing. The price seemed too good to be true, so Asher volunteered to meet with the realtor on his own to check it out and see if it seemed legit. When Asher brought up the price seeming a bit low for the area, the agent informed him that there were rumors of the grounds being haunted, which made it hard to find tenants. However, she assured him that it without a doubt was not haunted. Logan and I joined for a second walk through a day later. Immediately, I fell in love with the place, and couldn't help the strange feeling that overcame me that day. It almost felt as though I was supposed to be there. Chapter 2. It was moving day. The guys had piled the majority of the first load of boxes in the living room, with a few stragglers remaining on the porch. I was bringing in one of the boxes from the porch, when I froze dead in my tracks upon hearing a rummaging noise coming from the kitchen. Seeing as how both the guys were still at the truck, there was no way it could have been either of them. Whatever it was, sounded far bigger than any animal that should have been in the area. I sucked in a shaky breath, gathered my courage, and tiptoed to the kitchen. I couldn't help but let out a gasp at what I saw. To my complete dismay, there stood a grungy-looking man. As he spun around to face me, our eyes locked, and I couldn't force my eyes away from his icy blue stare. I also couldn't help but notice his handsome, chiseled features underneath it all. Seeing the length of his hair and condition of his clothes, I immediately assumed he was homeless. Mustering up all my courage, I broke the awkward silence. "What are you doing in here?" "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to," he started to say before trailing off. "Didn't mean to?" I repeated questioningly. He hesitated before continuing. "Didn't mean to startle you. I'm Heath." "Heath?" He nodded. I couldn't help but notice that he looked sad. Despite this, there was something about him that made me feel at ease, and I got a sense that he was harmless. "Well, Heath, you're in my kitchen. Is there something that you need, or that I can help you with?" Just then, the sound of Asher and Logan entering the house echoed into the kitchen, causing a look of worry to cross Heath's face. "Hey, don't worry, it's just I was saying, when I felt a hand on my shoulder. "Everything good?" Asher asked. "Yeah, this is—" I started to say, gesturing towards Heath, but stopped mid-sentence, unable to believe my eyes. He was gone. I told Asher everything that had just transpired with Heath. Asher made no attempt to hide his concern, as he went and got Logan to help him search the house. After an extensive search, they determined nothing was out of place, and no strangers were to be found. I knew what Asher was thinking when he guided me by the hand. "Come sit, talk to me." He proceeded to explain that he understood how stressful things felt right now, especially with me having to leave my child at home, this move, and most of all, my mom's condition. I agreed that it was all very stressful, but I wasn't giving in. That had absolutely nothing to do with what I had seen. I knew Asher felt frustrated, that there was nothing he could do to help, so I thanked him for being there for me and informed him that I'd feel better after getting some rest. That seemed to satisfy him, for the time being anyway, and he went back out to work on unpacking. Logan lingered in the doorway after Asher had left, gently knocking on the door as he entered. I could feel his worried gaze as he quietly sat down and wrapped his arm around me. He'd always been equally as protective of me as Asher. "You okay?" he said, nudging me. "Yeah, I'm fine," I replied, knowing he probably agreed with Asher about it being the stress getting to me. "Okay, good. You know I'd protect you from anything, even if I can't see it," he said playfully. Chapter 3. It was a warm night, so I climbed out of bed and opened my window. The cool breeze was a welcome relief as it danced and swirled around me. Just as I began to head back to bed, something caught my attention out of the corner of my eye. It was dark and hard to see clearly, but there, off in the distance near the creek, was the unmistakable silhouette of a man. I watched as he knelt down towards the ground. I strained to see what it was that he was doing, but the darkness acted as a blanket, blacking out whatever it was he was kneeling beside. I watched for a few minutes longer before I found myself blinking in dismay. He had seemingly vanished into thin air. I shook my head. It must be the darkness of the night playing tricks on my eyes. As I attempted once again to get some sleep, the scene that I had just witnessed kept playing in my mind. Who was that? What were they doing? Could it have just been my eyes and overly tired mind playing tricks on me? Questions flooded my head. The next morning, I woke feeling less than refreshed. I headed downstairs to make my morning shake. I was going to need it. I had a long day of unpacking ahead of me. As I walked through the living room, I noticed the front door open. The guys had already gone and picked up another load of boxes. There it was again. The rummaging noise coming from the kitchen. Was Heath back? Asher and Logan had just walked in carrying boxes, just in time to hear it too. Intent on proving that I wasn't crazy, I hurried to the kitchen with the guys hot on my heels. A boy, who appeared to be about 12 or so, looked up startled. My jaw dropped. "You look just like him." "Huh?" the boy replied, seeming to be in a state of shock. "Heath," I replied. "Oh, yeah, he's my brother." I nodded and glanced back at the guys who were staring wide-eyed at the kid, who seemed to be helping himself in our kitchen. I had my suspicions that he may be hungry, if they in fact were homeless, although he looked much better groomed than his older brother. Although cleaner, with nicer clothes, he sported the same almost shoulder-length, disheveled blonde hair. "Is there a reason why you're in our kitchen? Is there something that you need?" I proceeded to ask. He looked embarrassed. "Actually, this house is where we used to keep our extra stuff. I just needed a bottle of water for school. We ran out in the main house." "Oh, well, we could definitely spare a bottle of water. Actually, here, take 2. He smiled. "Thank you." "Hey, I didn't catch your name." "I'm Alec," he replied shyly. "Well, nice to meet you, Alec. I'm Shelly. Can I ask you a favor?" Alec nodded. "I don't mind helping if you ever need anything, but please knock next time." I felt bad when a look of embarrassment spread across his face as he nodded before pulling his backpack on. With guilt getting the better of me, I continued. "Do you need a ride to school?" He looked like he was contemplating it when Asher blurted out my name. The way he said it made me feel like a child being scolded. At that, Alec quickly shook his head. "No thanks." "Okay, well, have a good day." "You too, Shelly." There was something so sweet and innocent about him, and the way he said it made me wish I could do more. "What the hell, Shelly? What were you thinking? Are you trying to get yourself killed?" Asher scolded once the kid was out of hearing range. I looked at my cousin shocked. "You think that kid would have tried to hurt me?" "I don't know, probably not. But I don't think I need to spell it out for you. That is the second break-in we've had in 2 days, one of which was by a full-grown man. We have no idea what their intentions were, or are, or what they're capable of." "Oh, so now you believe that there was a man in here yesterday, huh?" I smirked. "At least if they didn't before, they now know I have you 2 big, strong guys here with me. Hopefully that'll be enough to deter them from trying anything else. If that had been their intention. However, I highly doubt that was the case." "Shelly, you're too innocent for your own good." My cousin laughed, putting his arm around me and giving me a little hug. Although only 2 years older, he had always been very protective of me. Logan, who now had his arms firmly across his chest and his eyes glued to the door, clearly shared the same sentiment. Logan finally spoke. "I think we should swing by the store today and pick up some of those motion-activated surveillance cameras." "You know, that doesn't sound like a bad idea," Asher replied before turning to me. "Why don't you go upstairs and get dressed? We aren't leaving you here alone until we're 100% sure it's safe." After changing, I found the guys waiting for me on the front porch. "About time," Asher exclaimed. "Don't give her a hard time. If she wants to get all dolled up for me, let her," Logan teased. His remark had caught me off guard. "What? I didn't—" I was attempting to get out when Logan scooped me up, threw me over his shoulder, and proceeded to carry me to the truck. Just before we reached the truck, I spotted him. Heath was standing off in the distance. He appeared to be staring, so I gave a little wave. "What are you doing?" Logan asked, setting me down beside the truck. "Oh, I thought I saw someone over there. Must have been my eyes playing tricks on me," I replied nonchalantly. But I knew what I had seen. There undoubtedly had been someone there just a second ago. "Okay, up you go," Logan said, hoisting me up into the middle seat of the truck, before climbing in next to me and draping his arm lazily across my shoulders. I tried my best to look around without the guys noticing as we drove down the road. Where had he gone? Chapter 4. I couldn't take it anymore. The heat was stifling, and the repairman still hadn't made it out to fix the air conditioner. About a half an hour ago, the guys had decided to go swimming in the pool out back, but I had stayed upstairs, wanting to get a few more boxes unpacked so that I could walk through my room at night without falling. I now had a nice, neat little walkway, and that was going to have to do. If I stayed in the room any longer, it was likely I'd melt. I thought about joining the guys out in the pool as I clipped my hair up, yet decided against it. I figured someone should keep an ear out for the repairman. After pouring myself a glass of iced tea, I headed to the porch. I had been eyeing the porch swing since we had arrived, and figured this was the perfect opportunity to enjoy it. I flinched as I opened the door, barely avoiding Alec's fist as he brought it up to knock. "Alec, what are you doing here?" "I'm sorry. I was just coming to say thank you for your kindness before school today. I should have realized that with all the boxes, someone had moved in." It's okay. You did startle me a bit, but no damage was done. Those two guys didn't seem too happy about it. Who are they anyway? My cousin, who's more like a brother, and our mutual friend, who happens to also be like a brother to me. Oh, well, that's nice you get to live with your family, he said with a sad smile. What do you mean? Do you and your brother not live in the same house? I questioned, a bit confused by his response. No, we do. It's just he hasn't quite been himself since... He stopped mid-sentence. Since what? Never mind. I shouldn't be talking about it. I'm not going to ask you to talk about anything you're not comfortable with, but tell me this. Are you okay? I questioned, starting to get the impression something was even more off about him and his brother than I had originally thought. I'll be okay, he said, turning to look the other way. Then it hit me. Maybe it was the homelessness situation that I had suspected initially. Would you like some iced tea? No, thanks. I should be heading home, he replied respectfully. Here, let me walk you, I offered. I was hoping to take this opportunity to find out if my suspicions had been correct regarding the homelessness. Sure, I guess, he replied. I was both shocked and curious to see where he lived. As we walked down the road, Alec asked me all sorts of questions about me and my life. I didn't mind answering. I wanted him to know that he was safe around me. As his house came into view, I had to hide my surprise. The main estate was where he lived? I definitely had not expected that. I couldn't help but wonder why they were running out of water, and looked as they did if they lived there. They clearly had money. That meant that they were the owners of this entire property. Just then, my thoughts were interrupted when Alex started to speak. Although I really appreciate you spending your time on me, I think my brother could probably use your company a little more than me right now. Seeing the confused look on my face, he nodded towards the creek that ran along the side of the estate. Standing between the two trees, with his back to us, stood Heath. Taking in the scene, it hit me. This is where I had seen him from my window the night before. I found myself caught between not wanting to be rude and feeling that same old familiar feeling of shyness creeping in. Alec, I don't really know your brother. Plus, it sort of looks like he might want to be alone right now, I attempted to explain. Just because he's alone doesn't mean he wants to be. Please just go say hi. I sighed. I knew this kid wasn't going to let it go until I did it. So, I nodded with a faint smile and attempted to swallow my nerves. I was almost at Keith when he turned around and stared at me. He must have heard me coming. He had his hair pulled back this time, and I was taken back by just how handsome he truly was. When he cocked his head and furrowed his brow, I realized he was waiting for me to speak. I was just walking your brother home. I thought I'd say hi. Sorry if he was bothering you. I'll talk to him, he said, turning back towards the creek. Oh, no, there's no need to do that. We spoke and everything's good. He's a sweet kid, I said, now worried I was going to get Alec in trouble. Heath nodded, but didn't say anything else. I knew Alec had meant well, but he had put me in a really awkward situation. Okay, well, have a nice day, I said before turning to walk away. Just then, I turned back upon hearing the crunching of leaves. Heath was gone. What the heck? Where had he gone? I was now really starting to reevaluate my lack of belief in all things supernatural. I spun around to head back to my house. There had to be a logical explanation for all of this, and I was determined to figure it out, from the safety of my own house. I stopped on my toes, almost crashing into him. He placed his hand on my shoulder to steady me as I wobbled. There was no denying the intense feeling that overcame me as his hand touched the bare skin on my shoulder. It seemed he had felt it too, as his eyes traveled back and forth, from his hand to my face, and then back to his hand again, before quickly pulling it away. What was he? Vampires were supposed to have super speed, right? Get a grip. Vampires aren't real. There has to be a logical explanation, I reminded myself. How did you do that? I asked, looking up into his eyes. I was thankful that my voice had come out calm and collected, because that was the exact opposite of what I was feeling in that moment. But something strange happened when our eyes met. A wave of peacefulness enveloped me, and I was no longer scared. I just want to say I'm sorry about the way we met the other day, he said hesitantly as he turned his head in the opposite direction. I followed his gaze to see what he was looking at, and as I did, a bone-chilling feeling overcame me. Off in the distance, side by side, were two gravestones. My voice coming out in almost a whisper now, I asked, "Who's buried there?" As I turned to face him, I was startled to discover he had vanished yet again. That was it. I was not sticking around to see when and if he was going to reappear. I jogged the entire way back to the house, and as I did, I experienced the most unusual wave of emotions. I bounced between fear and confusion, until I remembered looking up into his eyes, and suddenly, I felt completely at peace. As I darted through the house and out into the backyard, I knew the guys were going to have a hard time believing this one. Chapter 5. "What the hell's wrong?" Logan blurted out as he quickly hopped out of the pool. Worry was evident in his voice. As he sat down on the lounge chair next to me, he wrapped his arms around me, pulling me down next to him. With one arm still draped over my shoulder, he leaned in close. "Shelly, you're worrying me. What's wrong?" I sighed. I knew how it was going to sound. "I think this place may actually be haunted." As his eyes searched mine, it was apparent that he was attempting to determine if I was joking. After a moment, he finally asked, "Are you being serious?" I nodded. He let out a breath before continuing. "Okay. Explain to me what made you come to that conclusion." "Well, I've now seen the kid's brother vanish right before my eyes more than once. And I just discovered that there are 2 gravestones down by the creek." "And what? You think that the kid and his brother are ghosts or something?" "I don't know. Look, I know how it sounds, but I also know what I saw. Wait, you believe in ghosts, right? Can they touch you?" "Spirits," he corrected before a wave of shock crossed his face. "Wait, are you saying one of them touched you?" The look Logan now sported was a mix between worry and anger. Maybe I should start from the beginning." "Yeah, maybe you should," he replied, staring at me intently. Just then my cousin returned with drinks. Logan filled him in on what was going on, and he pulled up a chair to hear my recollection of events. Later in the afternoon, we got a call that the air conditioner repairman wasn't going to be making it out today. It would be coming in the morning instead. To beat the heat, we decided barbecuing on the back deck and lounging by the pool for the remainder of the evening would do the trick. With the guys not wanting to let me out of their sight, my cousin asked me to go to the store with him to pick up some food to barbecue. Logan informed us he was going to stay behind because he had some stuff to take care of. My cousin gave him a sort of knowing nod before we headed out to the truck. I couldn't help but wonder what that was about. Something was definitely up. When we got back, I chopped up some fruit while Asher started up the grill. Logan popped up a screen and set up a projector for us to watch the movie. After we finished eating, we hopped on the pool floats to watch the movie from the pool. There was something about tonight that felt magical. I had almost forgotten about the craziness of the day. That was, until I went upstairs to get ready for bed. As I glanced at the window curtains dancing in the breeze, a folded piece of paper on the window seat below caught my eye. It read, "I'm sorry, we should probably talk. Please meet me by the creek." A chill went down my spine. I could only assume that was from Heath. Did that mean he had been in my room? He seriously wanted me to wander out in the dark to meet him, a complete stranger, who seemed to have no problem with breaking and entering? Maybe he really was a vampire. Did he really think I was dumb enough to go out strolling in the dead of night and hand myself over to him? I had no intentions of meeting my demise tonight. I hopped in the shower and tried to wash away the day. Upon climbing out, I could hear knocking on the front door downstairs. My breath hitched. I quickly finished drying off and pulled on some clothes. I could hear muffled voices downstairs as I approached. Logan gave me a sideways glance before opening the door wider to reveal Alec. "The kid says he needs to talk to you." I nodded and stepped out onto the porch. "We'll be right here if you need us," Asher called after me. I nodded before pulling the door closed behind me. The look on Alec's face made it apparent something was bothering him. "Are you okay?" I questioned. "Not really. My brother's not doing well." "Okay, what's wrong with him? How can I help?" Just then, I was startled by a familiar voice. I looked past Alec to see Heath coming into view. "There's nothing wrong, and you don't need to do anything. But I think we should talk, if that's okay," Heath said. His voice sent a strange sensation coursing over my body. Alec looked at me again. "Please?" he said almost pleadingly. "It's okay, Alec. It's up to her. I'm not going to ask her to do anything she doesn't want to. Go ahead and go back into the house. I'll be back in a little bit." With that, Alec nodded. "Good night, Shelly." "Good night, Alec." We stood there silently as Alec walked away. It was a moment before Heath spoke. As he did, I couldn't help but notice a look of sadness cross his face. "Sorry to have bothered you." With that, he turned and began to walk away slowly. Something about that, about him, tugged at my heartstrings, and I didn't feel right letting him walk away like that. Despite my better judgment, I sprinted to catch up. No, it's okay. What did you want to talk about? As we continued walking, he apologized again for how our first interaction had gone, and then for earlier today. It seemed as though he were going to offer an explanation and give me some of the answers I was so desperately needing. But then, he abruptly stopped, completely changing the subject. Before I knew it, we had walked down to the creek. Heath took a seat on a log that ran parallel to the creek and motioned for me to join him. After a few initial minutes of awkwardness, he began telling me about the fascinating history of the estate, his brother, and himself. I was pleasantly surprised by how smoothly the conversation flowed, and how we were on the same page about so much. He finally asked what had brought us here. As I explained the situation with my mom, I couldn't help the tears filling my eyes. I was surprised when I caught a glimpse of them in his as well. When I got to the part that she'd be pulled off the life support shortly, a stray tear escaped my eye. His warm hand gently stroking my cheek as he wiped my tear away came as a shock. There they were again, the same sparks I'd felt the last time we had touched. Okay, well, with a warm and gentle touch that caused my body to react like that, there was no way he was a ghost or vampire, right? He nodded behind him. Come on, I want to show you something. As I followed him along the creek, my heart sunk, and a wave of nervousness enveloped me. I knew exactly where we were heading. We came to stop in front of the 2 gravestones. My parents, they died 2 years ago. One of our businesses had caught on fire due to an electrical short. It just so happened to go up in flames as my dad had gone to pick up my mom. She had insisted on going into work on a Sunday, since none of the other employees would be there. She was setting up a surprise employee appreciation party. The fire had started just outside of her office door, trapping her inside. When my father saw the flames, there was no way he was waiting for help. She was the love of his life. He rushed in to try and save her. Neither of them made it out. I had just turned 20 at the time, and Alec was 10. It's been just the 2 of us since. Heath, I'm so sorry, I said, looking over at him for the first time since he had begun speaking. I felt helpless, seeing the tears streaming down his face. Not knowing what else to do, I went out on a limb and reached up, wiping the tears away as he had done for me. Sorry, this is the first time I've spoken about it since it happened. Don't be sorry. You're not supposed to hold stuff like that in. Thanks for opening up to me. Just then, he looked around with a strange expression plastered across his face. It almost seemed as though he was shocked or worried about something. What's wrong? Nothing. I should walk you home now, he replied abruptly. Without waiting for a response, he began walking towards my house. I followed. After a minute, I finally got up the courage to ask again, Is everything okay? Yeah, fine. And that was all was said until we reached my porch. Have a good night, Shelly, he said before turning and walking away into the darkness, leaving me completely baffled. Just then, I heard a little whistle and looked up to my window to see Logan watching. Then, the porch light flickered on to reveal Asher in the living room window. Ah, that's why they hadn't texted, called, or come after me. The guys had had eyes on me the entire time. I felt thankful to have these 2 as my personal protectors. Stay tuned. We will pick back up next week on Chapter 6, Their Legend, Our Destiny. Till then, take care. Good night, Midnight Readers.